you've ever felt imposter syndrome, you know how consuming it can feel. Otherwise healthy relationships can suddenly become hard to tolerate if you're feeling like you don't belong there. And you don't have to stick around IT for very long to discover imposter syndrome is far from uncommon with people. But what happens when corporations get that feeling too? Last week, we got a peek into how Dell Technologies might be experiencing it for themselves. A report came out last week that Dell Technologies was considering doing something with VMware. The Wall Street Journal reports that, according to sources, Dell is considering either spinning off the 81% stake it has in the virtualization giant, or perhaps buying up the rest of that stake to bring VMware fully into Michael Dell's warm corporate embrace. On a technical level, this seems like odd timing for me. VMware has never felt like a company looking for direction, but maybe arguably a few years ago, we could see the IT landscape changing significantly. The emergence of Kubernetes and containers, the increasing importance of the public cloud, and novel approaches to networking look like they might be disrupting the company. Being a big company with an extremely stable customer and revenue base, VMware was never going to react quickly to these trends. But wisely, over the past several years, they've either built or bought solutions to operate in this new paradigm, I think quite successfully. The company has worked with public cloud providers to launch things like VMware Cloud on AWS to let organizations extend vSphere into the cloud. AWS was the first cloud provider they worked with, but hardly the last, and they now have similar, although technically distinct solutions with GCP and Azure. These may not appeal to cloud-native organizations, but provide a natural path to the cloud for organizations not prepared to refactor or have maybe been burned by earlier cloud lift and shift efforts. VMware took a similar approach to Kubernetes, not exactly rushing to support this new force in IT infrastructure, but waiting until K8s emerged as the clear winner, then integrating it completely into vSphere 7 with VMware Tanzu. The company never plans to be on the bleeding edge, but does seem to have done a good job over the last several years of seeing where the industry is going and seeing how they can create solutions to serve customer need and keep themselves relevant. All of which is to say that VMware in its current, hey, we're a publicly traded company that's mostly owned by Dell, seems to be doing quite well for themselves, and presumably for Dell. So why shake things up? Well, it turns out that Dell is reportedly feeling a little underappreciated in this arrangement. Dell's current market cap sits around $36 billion. Nothing to seize at for sure, I'd take it. But their stake in VMware is valued around $50 billion. Part of this discrepancy comes down to stock performance. Since going public again in late 2018, Dell shares have hovered around or below the $50 mark, not much above its $45 per share price when it went public again. This as the NASDAQ index has grown over 50% at that same time. Dell EMC's data center business is a steady market for its corporate parent, but when paired with its relatively stagnant PC side, isn't seeing investors assign a lot of value to it, especially compared to the value they see in VMware. So financial pressures are causing Dell to weigh their options. So what does a future look like with either an independent or a fully subsidiary VMware? If the pressure for this is coming from investors, a spinoff seems to make the most financial sense. Dell is still carrying a ton of debt, almost $50 billion, as a result of buying EMC a few years ago. A VMware spinoff would just about take that off the books and free up Dell to be more fiscally agile with its remaining businesses. The problem with this is that Dell has recently been quite aggressive in making a value pitch with deep VMware integration, particularly with things like their VxRail HCI lineup. While there's no reason they couldn't have a significant partnership with VMware if they went independent to keep things going in the long term, not having them in any corporate fold limits the ability to coordinate on long-term planning on hardware and software integration. Having VxRail optimized for vSAN and Cloud Foundation is a win-win if your hardware gets you to sell more services. The benefit of that optimization is diminished with VMware as a separate entity. So what about a fully subsumed VMware? While this would more firmly establish Dell's stock value in a lot of ways, it would also require a substantial increase in their already problematic debt load. Not nearly as big as merging with EMC or going public again, mind you, but I wonder what appetite investors have for carrying more debt with VMware. I mean, I do think that it would have a solid return on that investment given VMware's recent performance, but I also don't pretend to really understand the ins and outs of corporate finance or how this would impact their stock value. In fact, never take any stock advice from me, ever. VMware, as a full subsidiary of Dell, would undoubtedly help Dell's existing businesses in the short term, but I wonder if it would end up reducing the value of VMware that spurred this whole process to begin with. VMware has adoption across a number of hardware vendors, despite being mostly owned by EMC and now Dell for most of its corporate life. Not exactly breaking news there. That unique position kinda goes away if fully acquired by Dell. We're already seeing companies like HPE pushing for a more full-stack services approach to infrastructure, and a non-independent VMware probably accelerates that trend. That's not an immediate impact by any stretch. VMware is far too pervasive for that. But it might be enough to cause vendors and public cloud providers to wonder if it might be better to go for their own stack rather than help out a competitor. Ultimately, I think the least likely outcome is that VMware's position stays the same. Once investors think there's money left on the table, it's usually just a matter of time before things change. All reports say a decision on what Dell will do is still in the very early stages, most likely coming well into 2021. We'll be keeping an eye on it till then. Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Checksum. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the Gestalt IT YouTube channel to get great content in your feed every week. And let us know, what do you think Dell should do with VMware? Let us know in the comments. Can't wait to hear from you. Talk to you next time.